What's up, everybody? My name is Joe Morley, and this is the Joe Morley Sports Show. Today, we are doing the team preview of your Houston Texans, the 2020 season preview of the Houston Texans. Why not? Everybody was happy with what they did last year. You know, it wasn't the greatest year, but it was a good year. Here's your head coach and your general manager, Bill O'Brien. He's only a lot of hate towards this guy, sometimes he brings it on himself because he does trade those big names. He's not afraid to make the big move. Let's just say that. Let's just say that Bill O'Brien is not afraid to make a move, and he doesn't care what you think about him. If he thinks it's going to help his team, he makes that trade. It's his team, right? He's the one that's going to coach him. He's the one that's going to have to talk to him every day. He's the one that's going to have to put the work in, and he's the one who's going to back up his play. There's nobody else. As a fan, I could say, why'd you trade DeAndre Hopkins? That's one of the best wide receivers in the game. And to him, yeah, it is one of the best wide receivers in the game. But I deal with him in and out, and I think I could do better. I think I could do the same job with or without him. And you got to trust him. If you're a Houston Texans fan, you got to trust him. And I'm a big believer in trusting organizations. And there's a time where you know that it's not right. But one losing season in 6 years. One losing season in 6 years, and you hate this guy. You hate that. I can only wish that with my teams. And he's worked for Bill Belichick. He replaced Joe Paterno and did a great job at Penn State when they needed it. When they needed a leader to come in at Penn State, this guy came in and he led. When Houston Texans needed a leader, they brought this guy in, and look what he's done. One losing season in 6 years, and you still question him. You still wonder why this guy is your head coach. They're still fire him, and one losing season in 6 years. I don't get it. Do I question some of the moves? Would I make some of those moves? Probably not. But I'm not there every day. I believe in him because I'm not a Houston Texans fan, but I have to believe in him. His track record has showed that Yes, he makes those bold moves, but it pays off. It pays off. So here's what they did last year. They had the 13th overall offense. Their passing game was a little off. The wide receivers couldn't get it going. If you look at it, the wide receivers, either they were hurt or they just weren't in sync. It was stuff like that. But injuries don't help it, and they just didn't have consistency. And like you'd watch them in the first quarter, and they're like the best offense in the league, and then you watch them in the third quarter, and it's like, what happened? So it's just the consistency. I think they get that down. The defense, I don't know, man. That defense went down quickly, right? J.J. Watt got hurt. That didn't help a lot. They just couldn't have anybody that could stop the passing game. They tried to bring in Conley and Hargraves at the same time. They tried to bring him in the midseason. That didn't turn out good. But those are two first-round talents. And to say that, look, Bill O'Brien brought in two first-round talent cornerbacks because he knew his defense wasn't hacking it, and he brought these guys in. And people were like, why did he bring those in? Because he's trying. He's trying. And this is a GM that tries, that is out there busting his butt for the team, and he's still getting hated on. But you gotta think that if he's trying, he's helping the team. If he thinks it's helping the team, you should think it's helping the team. But we can't get connected to these names. And I know people are like, we love these names, and you fall in love with the players. But are you falling in love with the player, or are you falling in love with the name on the front of the jersey? That's the reality, because that player is going to leave you. It's either you trade him or that player leaves in free agency. There's not a lot of loyalty anymore. The teams either get rid of you or the player moves on because they get more money. And that's the reality of the NFL now. And it is what it is. But if you're a Texans fan, the front of that jersey is what you look at. The front of that jersey is all you got to look at. But this is one guy that he probably will never get rid of, right? This is DeShaun Watson. This is the starter. He played almost every game last year, set one game out. I think it's because of that amazing play that he made against the it would have been the Oakland Raiders last year, now the Las Vegas Raiders. But they were losing that game. Houston should have lost that game to the Raiders, and he was on his way to the ground, got kicked in the eye, busted his eye open, remember that? And he still made that pass into the end zone for the touchdown, ended up winning that game. Changed Houston's season. I think it even changed the Raiders season and made them go downward. But That's your player. This is your Michael Jordan on your team. This is the guy that carries this team. They don't have the greatest offensive line, but they don't need it because they have this guy right here. 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Yeah, some of the interceptions aren't his fault. Some of them are his fault, but he makes plays. Look, 67% completion with makeshift wide receivers, with guys that are hurt, guys aren't playing every day, guys he doesn't have rhythm with, and he's throwing 67%. He was sacked 44 times. 44 times. I told you that offensive line wasn't great, but he has a mobility. Sometimes a mobile quarterback like him, sometimes they're trying to make the play too much and they get sacked on their own. You can't fault them for that because they're making the plays. So there's that. He rushes the ball. Last year he was a lot smarter. He started getting down a lot more, but he still goes and makes that extra. If he needs that extra yard, DeShaun Watson's going to get that extra yard. So you can see he had 413 yards rushing. He had the 7 TDs rushing. So he's there. And like I said, that amazing play against the Raiders, you can't get much better than that. You can't ask for much better than that. So here's the superstars that I believe are on the team. J.J. Watt, of course, he's been hurt a couple times the last couple years. He only played 8 games last year. He made it back for the playoffs. But in the 8 games, he still had 4 sacks. And when he's not on the field, it makes it a lot easier for offensive coordinators to adjust to that defense, and that could have been it. That could have, been one of the issues. I mean, I'm not saying it was the issue because it was happening before J.J. Watt got hurt, but it makes it a lot easier where you don't have to double team and know where J.J. Watt is. You're not looking for number 99 before every play. And that also hurts Merciless right there, and Merciless is the on the opposite end of J.J. Watt. Merciless is he had 7.5 sacks still without J.J. Watt there. 48 tackles, 4 forced fumbles, and 2 interceptions. And when you add J.J. Watt and him together, you have that dynamic duo. And if you don't have it, one of the guys missing the other one, then it makes it easier for the offense to adjust to it. Laremy Tunsil, a lot of people might say they gave up a lot. But when you're looking to protect the star quarterback, you're looking to protect that young guy, which Bill O'Brien was. He's looking to protect and preserve DeShaun Watson forever. And so he brought this big offensive tackle in, this first round top 10 offensive tackle. It should have gone higher in the draft. A bunch of stuff came out before draft that dropped him. But he's showing that he's a talent. He did have some issues last year, and that was the Laremy Tunsil had 17 penalties on himself. If I read that correctly, he had 17 penalties, 14 false starts. I mean, that you got to clean that up to be an offensive tackle, but he'll get it fixed. And Cooks, the only knock I have against Cooks is his injuries, and a lot of people he's not injury prone. He doesn't miss a lot of games. Yeah, but those concussions add up. I'm not a doctor. No, I'm not a doctor, but I know if my head doesn't feel good, it's gonna sit in my head, and I'm gonna think about it. And to get another concussion is not gonna help out. He's had 3 or 4 concussions in his short career, and a great player just needs to not get hit. And maybe Bill O'Brien already knows that, and I'm sure he does. I'm sure they make these plays so he doesn't, take those big hits. He doesn't have to go across the middle, and hopefully DeShaun Watson, he doesn't seem like the quarterback that lays people out, so it should be okay. Here's the draft picks this year. Blacklock, I like Blacklock. And when I saw them take it and you were like, Houston doesn't have a first round pick, all this, they don't have a lot of stuff. Blacklock was a great pick. Why not go with your defense? Why not help your defense out? Yeah, you probably need another offensive line. You could have probably went wide receiver or something with this 40th pick because it was a deep draft at wide receiver. But they knew their defensive line needed help. They know they need to rush the quarterback a little bit more. So why not bring a guy like this in? And he went to college right down the street, right? The other guys, I'm not really sold on, but they're there, and we'll see what happens. And you can see that they didn't go to the 6th or 7th round, and that's because they made trades, or either way. Like I've been saying, a lot of GMs and Bill O'Brien might have had the same thinking, or maybe it just worked out where he made trades and it didn't happen. But a lot of GMs were afraid to go into the 5th, 6th, and 7th round this year because of the lack of scouting that they were able to do. So they were one of the main guys that they knew about. So we'll see how this draft turns out. But he got positions of needs: linebacker, offensive tackle, cornerback and wide receiver, and of course D-line. So he addressed the needs that they needed. So you can't be mad. You just hope that they pan out. Here's your offensive depth chart. DeShaun Watson, we already talked about him. A.J. McCarron, he is what he is. I always was high on A.J. McCarron. I always thought he could have been something with the Bengals, but he never got that opportunity, and now I think it's a little bit too late. David Johnson's coming over from the Cardinals. Yeah, he didn't do much last year. He hasn't done much, the last 2 years probably, and a lot of fantasy owners are the ones that are hating on him because he hasn't been there. But it could have been the offense last year that the Cardinals went to, and he just wasn't. He's not that kind of running back, or he could have been still having those nagging injuries. But I expect a bounce back from David Johnson. I don't. Look what Bill O'Brien has done. Look what he did with Carlos Hyde. Look what he did with these other running backs, Duke Johnson, that were struggling on other teams, and they come in and they actually produce in his offense. So I think he knows what he's getting with David Johnson. Yes, is it not the same David Johnson from a couple years ago when he was at the top of his game? Probably, but he's still a valuable running back, and if he can use him correctly, it's going to add a lot to this offense. Will Fuller needs to stay on the field. 11 games, he has 670 yards, and he's a speedster. He stays on the field, he helps out. Coutee needs to stay on the field. He had only 9 games. He had 254 yards. Kenny Stills played last year, and I liked when Kenny Stills, and I thought he was actually going to be a little bit more in the offense than he was. But he had 561 and 4 TDs last year. The tight ends, they need to stay on the field. Fells is your red zone target. I mean, DeShaun Watson loved looking for Fells in the red zone, right? He had 7 touchdowns. Atkins was a part of the passing game. Jordan Thomas, you heard his name a couple times. So these guys, well, Jordan Thomas is coming from the Panthers, right? These guys are names that you know. But I'm sorry about Jordan Thomas. I got off on that. I could be wrong, but I remember hearing his name. That's just me. Let me know about Jordan Thomas if you guys know about him. I'm way off on those. I know Fells and Atkins. Jordan Thomas is just getting to me right now. For some reason, it got stuck in my head. But Laremy Tunsil, Nick Martin, these guys, the offensive line is shaping up, and it can only get better. It can only get better, but he can only do so much. Bill O'Brien can only bring in so much. So we'll see what happens there. Randall Cobb, look at Randall Cobb comes in, and he's not the same Randall Cobb that he was in Green Bay. He did produce good last year in Dallas. He did all right job there in Dallas. And so you bring him in. I think they brought him in on a 3-year deal. And basically what he's trying to do is just, like I said, bring that consistency to this offense. Bring people that are going to stay on the field, that are going to work well and do their job and know that they just need the first downs. Move that chain and help DeShaun Watson. DeShaun Watson will get you the ball if you get open. Here's the defensive depth chart right here. J.J. Watt, of course, like I said. Brandon Dunn and Omehu, they need to get their sacks up. Dunn only started 6 games last year. He had 1 sack. So I think they have 4 sacks between those two. Merciless, we already talked about. I think J.J. Watt being down kind of hurt him. McKinney and Cunningham, those are your tackling machines. Those two right there both put up 100 tackles last year. So hopefully they can get better. Conley's going to get a start. I don't know. Conley might. You saw good things and you saw bad things from him when he was playing in Oakland, and hopefully they can work with him and they get him going. Roby did good last year. I mean, of course, when you're the only cornerback on the league on the team that's having the struggles, you're gonna get blown up sometimes. Justin Reed did good. Watkins coming over from the Chargers. He's actually an underrated player. He played a lot of special teams over there, but he'll make a difference. I think he'll be a good safety, a good help to the secondary. So I like Jalen Watkins. Here's the schedule. You talk about starting off hard. I mean, I don't know who in the NFL has it out against Houston. I don't know. When they were making this schedule, they were like, "Hey, let's go get Bill O'Brien." Maybe they were a Houston fan and they were a DeAndre Hopkins fan, and they were like, "Hey, we're gonna take this out on Bill O'Brien, and we're gonna see how good of a coach he is. Let's hurt him deep, and let's give him the Chiefs week 1, the Ravens week 2, The Steelers week 3. The Vikings week 4. What? I mean, wow. I don't know if I've seen a schedule this hard to open up the season and all the previews that I've been doing. I mean, of course, you get the Jaguars, but then you get the Titans and the Packers. I mean, before week 8, you're playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 playoff teams. And the Steelers would have been a playoff team if like this year they added that extra spot. They were right there, and they're always a competitive team. So, man, that's a tough schedule, and it eases up on the back end if these teams, aren't improved. If they are the same like if they were last year, then it eases it up. But if these teams improve, like the Colts, the Bears should be better than they were last year. The Bengals are improved. The Patriots, we'll see about that, and the Lions. You never know. They always shock people. Somehow they always have that game where they shock people. So, man, this is why. And get mad at me. Texans fans, you can do whatever you want. You can get mad at me. I'm going to go 8-8 this year. It won't give you the division. It probably will make you miss playoffs. But that's what I'm doing. I'm going 8-8, just because I'm not buying the defense still. I still think it has a lot of work to do. I think your division has improved a little bit. Like I said, I like the Colts a little bit more. I like the Titans a little bit more. Jacksonville, don't worry about them. I think you guys got that. But I just think it's going to take time, and it's nothing against that. But and that schedule, and like I told you, that opening schedule right there is just brutal schedule to start that season. So I'm going to go 8-8. A high of 10-6. If they could pull a couple games out like that one against the Raiders last year, then they go 10-6. I see them if a couple injuries hit, and that's what you hope that doesn't happen. I can see them go 6-10. But I think with a quarterback like Watson, 6-10 is like the bottom, and it cannot go any lower than that. So 8-8. Sorry. Like I said, I just don't buy the defense. Here's the salary cap status. This is before they sign the rookies and stuff. This year, next year, they have a little bit to play with. You got Kenny, Fuller and Stills, or maybe your big free agents that are going to be available. Which I don't even know if you're going to want to re-sign them. You're going to see what the wide receiver position does this year. Maybe you draft somebody next year. But they're going to have to do something with Watson because he is going to be a free agent at the end of the 2021 season. So, of course, they're going to want to re-up him. And with Dak Prescott not even signing yet, we'll see what they do with him. And, Watson deserves more than Prescott. I think so. So he's going to – if Prescott's going to get 35 to 45, you got to open that checkbook up. And they just opened it up for Tunsil. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they do to move some stuff around. But, in 2022, it looks like they're going to get better. So that, I don't know. I like Bill O'Brien. I question some of his moves, but I think he's always looking for the best interests of his team. And it might not be the popular move, but he's not afraid to make that move. So I just say trust the system, trust what he's doing because he has a good track record. And at least he wins, you know what I mean? And that's what you weren't doing before. So, I don't know. If you're a Texans fan, let me know what I missed, what I didn't miss, what you liked about what I said, what you didn't like about what I said. I know you're going to hate on me for the 8-8 record, so go ahead, hate on me for that. Tell me why. Tell me what I missed, what I did not see, and what you think was going to happen. And come with me with facts and put it down there, and I read all this, and I enjoy it because, like I said, my opinion's my opinion, your opinion, your opinion. And at the end of the day, we just have to wait a couple months to see what happens, right? And then you can throw it in my face or I can throw it in your face. Either way, it's fun to talk sports. So if you're a Houston Texans fan and I missed something or I didn't catch something and you know it and there's a guy that hey, Joe, this guy right here is going to make a difference. And this guy right here has improved and he's done this, and this. Let me know because I would love to hear it. I love to hear the feedback from you guys. So I'm Joe Morley, JoeMorleySports.com. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Hit me up, DM me. You can go to my Facebook, my JoeMorleySports.com. Go all the way to the bottom. Hit me up and email me. Love talking sports. So 2020 team preview of the Houston Texans, 8-8. Love it, hate it. This is me. So, all right, guys, I'm out of here, and stay healthy.